Welcome, everyone. Welcome to this Sunday morning, Taking Your True Seat. My name is Ajaya Summers, for those of you who I haven't met before. And for those of you who I have some experience with, welcome and thank you for being with me today. I'm delighted to continue to share on this topic. I had a call last Saturday as well, and it just felt so rich to me and worthy of continuing to elaborate on. So thank you so much for joining me, and we will create this field together, even though we're here in this sort of looking at our screens. We can actually create a field of conscious awareness where we can join and we can palpably enter into a very dynamic and nourishing space together. So I want to just give us a little bit of an overview before we start to dive in. We'll be together for about 75 minutes, about an hour and 15. And initially here, I'm going to just establish a little bit around what I'm referring to with taking our true seat. And bring us into a bit of an invocation. And then we'll dive into some more content and context to create a little more container around our exploration and inquiry. And then I'll bring you all into an experiential, meditative inner awareness practice for you to explore more directly in your own experience what I'm referring to here, and inside your own laboratory, and see what's alive for you today. So this is definitely a very experiential call, and these are just my invitations. You're welcome to take me up on any aspect of what I'm sharing. I leave that to you. So to begin here, let's quite literally take our seat this morning. And what I would suggest is just feeling your sits bones on the chair where you're seated. And if you can, have your feet planted on the ground. Hopefully you're not driving. Obviously, if you're driving, you're going to have to receive this call in a little bit of a different fashion. But hopefully you're somewhere where you can actually just let your eyes close and let your awareness start to come inside to the sensations of quite literally the chair that you're sitting upon, just feeling those two little points of your sits bones and where you're making contact. And just let your breath and your awareness start to drop down into those sensations of making contact with your sits bones. And as you do so, noticing there's these beautiful long bones coming out of your pelvis that have a root system that can take you down into the sensations of the palms of your feet. So maybe just pressing your toes and the palms of your feet a little bit into the ground, and just establishing that sense of connection there as well. And just letting your breath naturally follow these lines of awareness. So as you feel your feet, just noticing the sensations of this contact of the ground beneath you, and just saying hello to Mama Gaia, maybe just a little bit of a movement there, a little bit of in your own way, just making some contact, saying hello. And then just noticing these long bones again, and how this flow of energy can invite a quality of alignment through your sits bones, your pelvis, and just allowing your spine to align to this foundation that we're starting to establish. So just in your own way, starting to sense a little bit of movement just rising up out of your sits bones. And we want to allow a kind of an elongation and inviting breath into the spine, inviting some space between the vertebrae. and quite literally, just in your own way, intuitively sensing how you can allow the breath to start to organize the vertebrae of your spine. It's how you start to sense a more fluid, open quality where your heart, there's space for your heart to actually expand. So you sense the front of your body, the chest opening, the shoulders slightly pulled back, and then just allowing your head to rest on your shoulders, continuing to let the breath guide you. And you can even just sense a little bit of the space above your head, a little bit of a sensation of the crown of the head, like a little bioantenna orienting you to the space above you as well. And now just noticing how the breath has so much more room to flow from your perineum, through your belly, through your solar plexus, through your open heart, through your throat, through the center of your head, through your crown. Just taking a moment and exploring inside just the movement of your natural breath. Nothing forced or efforted, but just saying hello to your breath and offering all this newly found freedom of space inside that we're starting to establish. And without judgment, just noticing where the breath is flowing and where you sense space and ease, and perhaps noticing areas that might feel a little more dense or constricted, and that's fine too. Just being with and bringing a kind of warmth of attention to what is here for you this morning. Saying, hello, my beautiful breath. Hello, my beautiful body. And in this prayer, this centering prayer I want to offer us as we begin, we want to center ourselves in this remembrance, this reestablishing ourselves in right relationship to this precious body in which is our temple, our home. And we also want to establish ourselves in right relationship to the natural field, to life, to this greater field of awareness, this great mystery. And so just go ahead in your own way, just kind of take this little journey with me. I'm just going to speak a prayer out loud. So if you like, you can rest a hand somewhere around your heart or your belly, or if you like to make a prayer mudra, whatever feels good, but just making some contact with your actual body. And we say, beloved Mother, Father, Creator Source, precious lover of life, we call God, we call by so many names, you who are this great mystery, this life delivery system. We say thank you for the precious gift of life and for another day in this sacred experience of being alive in a body and getting to have this conscious awareness that can explore what it is to evolve and participate in this great body of evolution we call planet Gaia at this time. So we say thank you for all that has brought us here, all of our experiences, all of our losses and traumas, all of our great joys and openings, all of the ways that we're gifted and blessed. And we say thank you to our lineage, to our ancestry, to all the ones that have come before us, that have allowed us to be here in this holy flesh and blood, embodied as these unique ones that we are. And we say thank you for this opportunity to be together today in this way of exploring what it is to truly take our seats in this accelerated time on planet Gaia, and to participate with our full conscious awareness here in this sacred body, in our sacred lives, in all that we care about, in a meaningful way, in a way that begets wellness and health and resilience, in ways that we can tap into our deeper integrity and really into this field of grace that is always present, no matter what appears in the temporal scenes of the movie that we find ourselves in. So we establish this gratitude and this love and this honor to truly be here in this precious gift of life. So just in your own way, feeling inside the sincerity for your gratitude and your love for your life, freshly in this now moment, just letting yourself presence that as a feeling as you sense this touch of your hand on your heart, or perhaps on your belly, or perhaps your palms together. Letting yourself sense this freshly, anew, in an alive way for you. Just taking a breath into that. And I also invite you inside of this ground that we are establishing of our love and our gratitude. I also invite you to bring here anything else that you would like to bring in a way onto this altar, anything that is alive inside of your heart that you are praying into, anything, any questions or inquiries or pieces in your life that you're meeting as a kind of inside of your own growth edge, if you will. You know, these places that we get to meet in the timeline of our human experience. So go ahead and just take a moment and just see if there's anything you want to put on the altar for this call today, anything that you want to bring more breath to, anything you want to bring more light to, anything that you would like to bring this company of the field that we are establishing today. So you can bring the warmth of some mutuality, so you're not in isolation with whatever it is that you're working with. So just taking a breath into that, letting that be named, letting that be felt, letting that become clear for you. All right. So just seeing yourself quite literally, taking that from the outside in your sort of cognitive awareness and just putting it on the altar here. And already beginning to feel some space, some warmth, some contact. And letting yourself just drop back down into your sits bones, into the contact of your feet on the ground. And resting back into this sense of your core, your alignment of your spine growing out of that space. And I invite you, as we continue this call, to just enjoy exploring resting in that space. So often in our modern world, we are invited to come out, to come up and to come out. And so I invite you, as we explore today, to just continue resting down and into this place where you're listening and feeling from inside your core seat. So if you haven't opened your eyes, you're welcome to do that. And you're also welcome to keep your eyes closed if you prefer just to listen from inside. So again, welcome. I'm going to go ahead and just say a little bit more about this topic. And what I want to name is that, we are in these times, sometimes referred to as the Great Turning. Or as I mentioned last week, I think there's many opinions and speculations and points of view about what's happening right now, whether we look through the lens of climate change or the pole shift or, entering into higher dimensional vibrations on Gaia. Or for some people, there's perceptions that we're quite literally at the end times, and that we may have a short amount of time before we actually don't even have the oxygen to be in the environment here, the ecosystem that as we have known it, and that planet Earth as we've known it may be going through some very radical changes in which the human species and many of the species, the sentient life here, may not have what we need to survive. I think the fact is that we don't know. We have lots of perceptions, and what I want to point to is that I think that it's pretty undeniable that we are in a time of acceleration. We've always lived in these times of, you could say, impermanence, or the dimension of this earth experience. The fact is that things are always changing. And so living inside of a human organism, we can feel this underlying sense of a kind of existential anxiety, a kind of feeling that there's this sense of impending, doom, or something we have to look out for, or kind of vigilance, always to be on the ready, to be prepared to take action. And, in the field of neuroscience, we'd call this our fight or flight system, or more of our sympathetic system. And, on a psycho-spiritual, emotional level, we can experience that as a kind of existential anxiety. And then there's ways in which our culture, I think, feeds to this, especially in Western culture, where there's a vibration of fear that's very dominant, that can also feed into this kind of taking us up and out. So that, along with the fact that in these times, there's a lot of changes going on great scales, floods and mudslides and massive fires and hurricanes and volcanoes going off and tsunamis. And, these times have been predicted and prophesized, and we are alive in these times. And for, in some prophecies and traditions, this is considered an incredible honor to be the ones who are bridging, who are bringing our love and our you could say the sort of warriorship of our spirits to this time, to bridge these times. And what I want to address is, how do we do that in a way where we do the best that we can to keep these beautiful bodies of ours healthy and resilient? And how do we tap into this deeper field of nature, this deeper field of intelligence that no matter what is appearing in the media and in the greater acceleration of shifts and changes that we are experiencing and feeling, how do we keep tapping into these slower, richer rhythms of the biofield, of the natural world, that are actually, in my experience, what we can base our trust in and what we can establish our ground of resources within. So even as I'm saying that, I invite you to just let your breath and let your body keep sensing into what it knows about this. These are not just concepts and abstractions. These are ancient and primordial wisdoms that we carry. These are codes that are quite literally woven into our DNA. And in our, in our ancestry, I think we had this more naturally established because we were people who lived more on the earth. Or if you were a being who grew up in more of an indigenous culture, you never had to sever and split off from that symbiotic connection. But it's still here for us. It just takes, I think, a bit more cultivation in the times that we're living in. And so first of all, what I want to say is that if you are someone who is experiencing this kind of existential anxiety, meaning the sense that there's constantly this onslaught of things that appear to be coming at you that feel very urgent and requiring of your attention. And sometimes the sense of, oh my God, I need to take action. I have to do something about this. And oftentimes that's the case. I'm not suggesting that we be dissociative and just passive in our lives. We do need to often take action. But what I think is important is that we take action from a kind of inner guidance system that we can trust, that's already here inside of the very core of our bodies. Now, I mentioned last week, and for those of you who are at all familiar with my orientations and the core embodiment practice that I share, the way that we fundamentally connect with this space is quite beautifully woven into the design of how we were created from the beginning. So in my journey, I never really had to rely on certain kinds of religions or teachings on the outside. Where I found, you could say, my sense of kind of cracking God's code, this design, was really through studying embryology and anatomy, and in an experiential way of really going inside my own system and establishing a felt sense relationship and language with my literal anatomy and with the origins of where I came from and how I developed. And this is possible for anyone. In a little bit, I'm going to take us into a little bit of an experiential exercise where we can start to sense into this. But what I want to name is that this, you could say, I keep referring to it as this kind of existential anxiety. If we play party to that, if we keep moving our attention towards in the direction of this kind of outer world and these more survival-based ideas, that our survival and our sense of meaning and value is all about this kind of up and out orientation, then quite literally we grow these neural networks. We say, we quite literally grow these, you could say, these ways of perceiving reality. And we just keep fortifying them the more we put our attention. Wherever we put our attention, we keep growing that experience in our awareness. And so again, in these times where there's so much to pull us out, we want to start to grow the circuitry of down and in and reestablishing this core sense of seat, this core sense of a navigational system that's grounded into the biofield, into nature, into this gravitational intelligence. And it's also connected into our eternal nature, if you will. We have a line of energy all the way down into the earth and all the way out into the cosmos. And that line of energy has a movement, a flow, you could say. The human system is a flow through. And that movement of energy is sort of like the shape of a torus, a donut shape, where there's energy coming up from the earth that's constantly informing us from below and feeding and nourishing, quite literally, all of the processes in our body from the bioelectric field of the earth. It's flowing up through us. And then it's also descending down. There's a current of energy that quite literally comes from above and is moving down. And so this flow of energy, when we start to put our attention inside this core, we start to establish quite literally a greater electromagnetic field. Now, there's lots of wonderful science these days. The Heart Math Institute has been doing an amazing job actually studying these bioelectric fields, particularly of the heart. And we know that the heart has a brain, and it's actually larger, it has a larger EMF field than the head brain. And we also know that the enteric gut brain has an electromagnetic field. And the two of these together are creating what I'm referring to as your core navigational system, where we are plugged into a more on the level of our instincts, our heart knowing, our heart as an organ of perception. The heart and the gut are quite literally entrained with the biofield. That's where they're getting the information. And this is going on all the time. And this relay station, this core relay station, is actually feeding the information to be translated into the head brain. So it's not to say that we don't use our head brain. We do, but we want it to find its alignment through a kind of coherence that we first establish through the core. And what I've noticed walking around in our culture these days, and just through many years of having my hands in my background of doing cranial sacral work and continuum, having my hands on people and also on my own intelligence, my own organism, is somehow I've been given a kind of X-ray vision, if you will, where I can actually see into people's bodies and see this line of energy, this toroidal flow through. I can see how well it's established and where there might be breaks in the system or bends or tweaks or splits, and where it's flowing through all the way. And part of my sort of desire and emphasis to share this material is what I notice a lot in seeing people is that there's very few people actually walking around who aren't just orienting to the world from their head center. That's mostly what I see, is very few people have a conscious connection down into this deeper root system and this more native intelligence. And my deepest instinct from being someone who has been cultivating these centers for a long time is that in these times of great acceleration and great earth changes, what we need more than anything are human beings who have established themselves in this core seat, in this true seat, where from this place, we have the ability to respond to life with love, with care, with a kind of intelligence that has a knowing that's connected to a greater field. So we're not just in reaction. We're not just coming from a space of orienting out of fear or orienting out of our history. We can actually be here in the present moment where our body is, where our breath is, where the biofield is alive. And we can come from a space of response. And that, to me, is our true power. And you could say our true integrity. It's the place where we can trust where we're coming from. And so as I look around and I see, quite literally, just recently I was in the fires in California, and, these kinds of times where there's crisis, even if you're someone who doesn't have a clue what I'm talking about, gratefully this system is there and it can be tapped into. You see in times of crisis that people, by human nature, we come together, we show up, we support each other, we give whatever we have. This is the human spirit. And so, thank God we can, on some level, rely on that showing up. And we've seen this again and again and again. We've also seen the shadow side of where people don't show up in that manner, and the more of the shadow side where people take advantage of the situations that are at hand. But what I want to say to all of you who are here with me today, who are interested in this, not just on a global scale, but also quite personally, a piece that I want to address in light of this New Year energy. I've noticed a lot of people offering courses and just things online, referring to, it's 2018 and have you manifested your dreams yet? And, why don't you have that perfect partner and that perfect career and that perfect, whatever. And I noticed this sort of response in my system where I want to say, where's the conversation about this experience for so many of us, quite personally and quite globally, of what about when we don't get what we want? How do we deal with that? Because the fact is, there's a lot of us not getting what we want. Who wanted their homes recently in the Santa Barbara area to be burned down, and the recent mudslides and floods that have been happening there, and so many people missing and dying, and the traumas and great loss as a result of that, the fires in Northern California. I could go on and on and on with a list of sort of, quote, natural disasters that have been happening. Whether they're natural or not, we don't know. But the fact is, that's not what anybody wants, or the rise of health issues and illnesses, and death rates going up. And, these aren't things that anybody wants. Nobody could say they want that experience. And what I've seen in my own life is that some of my greatest maturing and deepest discoveries of my true integrity, and really what I'm made of, where I can find my connection to spirit, and to this deeper grace, this deeper field of grace, have come about through great loss. They've come about through me not actually getting what I want. And so I just want to speak to this for a moment and say that I don't think it's about, sure, go after your dreams, and, God bless us all in having what we want. But the fact is, we may, for a moment, or for 10 years, or for 20, have that perfect mate, or that perfect home, or that perfect whatever it is that we want. And by all means, let's have that too. I celebrate that. But the fact is that we live in an impermanent realm, and we cannot control how long anything will last. I had a great loss last year of one of my most precious relationships, my beloved cat, Mabu, who I had the incredible blessing of spending 11 years with. And would I have loved to spend 18 with him? Or, that was my idea of how it was going to go. And he left sooner than I would have wished. And, it was profound loss. But I got to have those 11 years, and recently I was talking to a dear friend who met the love of her life. And then he was diagnosed with 4th stage cancer and died within 9 months. But they had those 4 years together. And, I think we can live in this sort of illusion of this temporary nature. And it's kind of ironic that we live in this illusion when we're constantly reminded all the time of this fact of impermanence. And so I think it's part of what we get to meet as we land more in our core, and we begin to reassociate with our actual soma, because our soma also lives in this very temporal, precious, finite reality. And so part of the disassociation of this existential anxiety, and the acceleration of what we're in, and the onslaught of the crises that we're meeting, in all the ways it can take us out, part of how we reassociate is actually being really honest and really intimate with this fact of the impermanence and the temporal nature here. And what I find is that when we do that, it brings us in to this intimacy with right now, and with our purpose in each moment, with what's really true for me to attend to, what's really true for me to show up here, to show up there. Or, purpose isn't this big pie in the sky final destination. No, it's an intimate moment to moment awareness from sensing inside of the core, with this conversation, this intimate conversation with life of, where is it true for me to be now, and now, and now, and now, and really listening to that guidance and following that. And when we do that, it's not necessarily always pretty and sweet and, you know, puppy tails and what is that saying? Soft, you know, puppy ears and rainbows and unicorns. It's not. Sometimes we're in the front lines, you know, and we're called to be places that are pretty uncomfortable. But you know that you're taking your seat. You know that you're in the place that only is yours to take. And my experience is that there is no greater fulfillment. There's a kind of slipstream I mentioned last week that is a current of an intelligence that begins to take over our lives. And this slipstream is, you could say, this experience of grace, of being carried by the slipstream within the biofield of life. And it creates a kind of protection, if you will. Again, we tap into this electromagnetic field of our core that creates a kind of protection that begins to, in some way, repel the kinds of nutrients or lack of nutrients, we could say, the kinds of experiences or vibrations that aren't actually nourishing for us. It begins to kind of keep those more at bay. And it begins to invite in the experiences, the vibrations, the frequencies, the people, the opportunities that are actually nourishing for this system, to fortify this system, to continue to journey this slipstream, this current of grace, because this intelligence wants each of us to be bringing forth our greatest aliveness, our greatest gifts, our greatest truth of being. That's the way that we're wired. We're not wired to be coming from deficiency and lack and feeling cut off and scrambling and efforting and, you know, trying to be something that we're not. We are wired to be what we are. And each of us has a unique expression that wants to manifest in our very personal lives through our purpose work in the world, through our intimate relationships, through our families, through our friends, through those ones we have soul destinies and dates with, through the ways that we just walk through the world, and maybe the way we smile at a stranger or we help someone out that we don't even know. Whatever it is, that quality of riding that slipstream, if you will, your destiny, those destiny forces. In my experience, the way we tap into that is through abiding in this core field. So just bringing that back around. And we quite literally grow the neural networks, grow the neurocircuitry, grow the circuitry that establishes that. The more that we bring our attention down and in, behind our eyes, into our heart, into our belly brain, into this midline, this central channel, electromagnetic field of this toroidal flow through. And that is what creates a kind of resilience or deeper establishment of our health, no matter what environment we are living in these times. Again, we don't know for how long, but my experience is the more that I cultivate my attention here, the more my sense of robustness in health, my clarity of mind, and this inspiration around what is my unique gift to bring through and following the guidance of that. The more that I have that experience is very much by virtue of connecting in with this core space. So hopefully I'm making sense, just giving you a little bit of context. What I think I'd like to do now is just bring us into more of an experiential opportunity for you to start to feel into what I'm talking about inside your own system. And if this is new for you, I want to just say a little bit about how we're going to do this. So the way that we feel cut off from what I'm talking about, the way that came about was mostly through repressing our breath. When we had experiences in our history that you could say were traumatic, either developmentally in our early life, or what we call shock traumas that we experience that are inevitable for all of us. In those moments where we have experiences where we cut off from this biofield, we tend to repress our breath and to cut off from feeling our experience. Now, if that shock trauma or that developmental trauma was really intense, we might have totally split off and disassociated and quite literally left our bodies. And we may have even a kind of a soul level of splitting off. And that can take some time to reestablish, bringing back those soul parts and bringing back whatever may have been fractured. And I'm not going to suggest that we're going to necessarily do that in a short exercise here today on this call. Sometimes for people who have, a lot of trauma in their history, we need to provide a very loving and safe holding ground for them to reestablish a sense of safety so they can really come back home. And that's something I love to do with people, but we just need a little more time and ideally live together. But just to say, what I'm naming, we all have developmental trauma, meaning in our early life, we all had experiences where we didn't have our needs met. And we all produced sort of coping mechanisms or strategies of how we learned to survive those situations. And what that does is it created our self-sense, and it also created our sense of relationship and our sense of world. And as we go through life, that can create a kind of a filter or an armoring or a defense structure, or you could just say it's what the personality is made of, the quite literal sense of separation from others, from life, from God, sometimes from our own bodies. And so that defense structure is really the only thing that's keeping us from experiencing this ground of our being, this fundamental connection to Gaia and our birthright of belonging here and feeling what is our unique gifts to express, our unique essence to express, and also our sense of who we are as eternal beings. So I didn't mention a little while ago, but I'll mention it now. You could say the human being is this sacred cross of this intersection of being both established in this ground of our temporal nature, where the body lives, and we also live in this vertical, eternal dimension where we are whole and we are complete and we are eternal. And this flow through space that I'm speaking of is where we can actually feel that, where we live in this sort of paradox that isn't really a paradox until you find out that it's not. That's actually our home. That's where we live. And the only thing that's keeping us from feeling that and walking in that and talking in that and expressing inside of that and touching the world from that space is the way that our tissues have become, you could say, bound in time, where we're carrying our history that's unresolved, that's unintegrated. And so, again, the way that we tend to do that is by repressing our breath in those moments where the sensations were too intense, the emotions were too intense. And so as we start to reassociate and come back in and open this core space, there's a practice that we can do where we can dissolve, in a sense, where we can participate. I think I'm going to sneeze. Maybe not. Where we can participate in the dissolution of that structure that's formed as a kind of filter of separation between me and myself, me and God, me and life, me and other, often all of those fields. And the way that we dissolve that structure is by pattern interrupting the way that we breathe. And in my background, particularly through something called Continuum, and also biodynamic cranial, what I've found is that we work with particular sound vibrations that more than anything have a way of pattern interrupting the normal way that we breathe. When we do that, we tap into if you will, we could say what's been rigid or tight or bound in our tissues that's been held together by that repressed breath. It begins to be freed up, and quite literally what was armored and what was we experience as tension or compression in our bodies and we feel as an experience of separation, we quite literally can dissolve those spaces in our bodies and create more fluidity. And we tap into what we call our fluid body. And our fluid body is what's already naturally connected to the biofield of nature. It's where we experience a kind of receptivity and openness and safety and trust, where it's very natural to sense our obvious connection to everything that is alive. And so what I want to do here is just give you a little bit of a taste of how we can start to create more fluidity inside of this core space. And then as you start to orient to that space, again, freshly today, I'll give you a little opportunity to then start to sense into how, when you're seated there, you quite naturally tap into a greater perceptual field of awareness to the larger field. And so I did a little practice last week, and I'm going to bring that in again today, only nuance in a little bit more, and just offer this to you as a way of navigating in these times, a way of, as opposed to being up and out and sort of in the splat fragmentation mode, the fear-based mode of our culture, where we lose our power, we lose our ground, we lose our guidance. This is a way of coming down and in, reestablishing that core. And as we do, we tap into a larger electromagnetic field of nature and this larger navigational sort of slipstream flow through system that is uniquely ours to traverse. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of context, and I'm going to go ahead and just start to guide us into this. And we'll explore some sounds. If they're new to you, don't worry about doing it wrong or right. It's really about just feeling the vibration of the sound internally. So it's less about an external sound. It's not about performing or making a certain sound. It's about letting the sounds create a kind of soundscapes or sound shapes inside, vibratory spaces that begin to open. And the alchemy of this is really bringing your awareness inside of where you can sense those vibrations inside your tissues. That's where the magic happens. So again, go ahead and just get comfortable. And we do this practice sometimes lying down. For right now, I want to invite you just to be in the vertical with me, if that feels comfortable. If it doesn't, and you need to lie down, that's fine. So we'll just go for about 10-15 minutes here, and then I'm going to open us up for, I'll open up the chat box and see if anybody has any questions or anything else anyone would like to explore. Okay. So go ahead and let your eyes close, and you can just let my voice guide you. So to begin, I invite you to rest a hand on your belly, and ideally on your skin. So you can even rest both hands there if you like. And just feeling the contact of your hands touching your belly. And feeling your belly touching your hands. And just let your breath come into that contact. Taking a deep breath and just feeling the belly expanding. And as you exhale, feeling the belly softening in towards your spine. And as you inhale, feeling the belly expand, continuing to sense your hands there. And as you exhale, feeling the belly soften in towards your spine. And just establishing this kind of inner climate of self-love. Just saying, hello, my beautiful belly. Hello, my beautiful body. Hello, my beautiful self. Letting your system know that you're interested in bringing this quality of love, of warmth, of kindness, of intimacy. That you're interested in a kind of self-love making, if you will, a kind of willingness to really be here with what's here. Just like you might bring that kind of openness or warmth to someone that you care about in your life, bringing that to yourself, just with this way that you start to feel your own touch. So breathing into your hands, into your belly, this quality of warmth, of self-love, exhaling, and emptying out any excess tension, any excess energy, letting the eyes start to melt down into your belly. Breathing in, letting the belly expand and sensing this expansion all the way down into your root, your perineum, your genitals. And as you exhale, sensing that softening down into your perineum, your genitals, your sits bones. If you like, you might allow a little bit of a rocking motion. I find as I inhale, my pelvis slightly rocks forward. And as I exhale, my belly goes in towards my spine, my pelvis slightly rocks back. And I'm just inviting a little freeing up in my pelvic bones, in the SI joints. We tend to hold a lot in the root. And so I'm inviting you to bring your breath, the warmth of your awareness, to soften here and to let your body know that in this moment, it's safe to relax here. It's safe to let in this upward flowing current, this ascending current from Gaia. It's safe to start to let that come up and in through you. So just generously bringing in this in-breath and expanding, making contact with the sensations of your belly. And as you exhale, emptying, 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 feeling the navel go in towards the spine. Subtle little bowing. And softening in the root, softening in the sits bones, softening in the genitals. We'll just spend a little time like this, being with yourself, being with the tensions, the compressions, the subtle sensations in your gut brain, your hara. Just bringing the breath and feeling with your awareness the sensations of the breath moving in through these tissues. And again, noticing the contact of your feet on the ground, really letting in this flow of energy all the way down the legs and through your feet. You can start to feel the palms of the feet as if you had a mouth or nostrils there that could breathe, feeling the chakras of the feet opening and sensing this little kind of root system opening down into the earth. You can begin to let this sort of back of the throat, almost like an ujjayi breath sound, if you know that in yoga, a little bit of a back of the throat sound. So as you inhale and the belly expands and there's a subtle arching or tilting in the pelvis. Just let a little bit of the back of the throat sound. And as you exhale and the belly goes in towards the spine and you feel this subtle rocking back, a little bit of a back of the throat. Letting yourself really empty out any excess tension, any excess holding. And breathing in this fresh mana or prana or life force, or quite literally the resources in the in-breath that you can sense coming from below you. Breathing that in and up from the earth and exhaling out any excess tension. Softening at your root, softening your sits bones. Softening down your legs, down through the palms of your feet. Spreading the palms of the feet. You might explore spreading the toes. And just letting this movement become systemic, letting the balls, the feet roll, ball of the feet roll with this movement. And you might begin to sense this is happening in my body. So with this systemic motion as you exhale and the belly goes in towards the spine, you might also sense the head slightly bowing towards the heart. And you can let the eyes slightly bow in towards the heart. So this kind of curling in. And then as you breathe in, letting the belly expand slightly, rolling the pelvis, slight arch in the back, and letting the head slightly roll back, letting the eyes slightly roll back. Filling, 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 filling. Just enjoying this systemic movement. And sensing in your own way, attuning to this flow of energy that you may begin to sense now from the root into the belly, down your legs, through the palms of the feet, breathing up through Mama Gaia. Sense of nourishment coming into your body and letting it begin to flow. And really it's just about softening, noticing anywhere where you are subtly, unconsciously holding and just dropping it, dropping your weight, softening your attention, letting the breath contact come in a little deeper, letting go of any efforting, straining, forcing, softening down and into this flow of energy. Letting this not be a mechanical movement, but we start to open to this kind of fluid, rounded movement. This movement is actually the way that we formed in utero. We call this the primary respiration, the movement of the original breath that formed us in utero, this curling in, where the head bows to the heart, and the heart to the belly, and everything curls in and empties and empties and empties. And then this expansion where the belly fills, the chest fills, the heart fills, the back of the heart arches, the head falls back, the eyes fall back. This expansion, expansion, expansion. We extend, extend, flex. This is the movement of the original breath that formed us in utero. So we know this as our original language, our primary language with source as the biofield of our own body forming itself, being informed by this innate intelligence. So letting go of anything mechanical here and letting yourself relax into a kind of remembrance. And I'm going to bring a little sound in. So for any of you that may be experiencing any sense of kind of blocks in the flow, anywhere where you're feeling in your spine or your root or behind your heart or in your eyes or anywhere through this central channel space, it's quite natural that as we go into the practice, we experience where there might have been little kinks in the flow or little blocks. And so rather than trying to force them to change or efforting with them, what we want to do is we want to let the sound vibration work with you to start to soften into those areas. So as you continue to feel the contact of your hands on your belly and really letting yourself know that you're safe, it's safe to breathe, it's safe to feel, it's safe to be here in your body. And I invite you to kind of titrate, if you will, or keep checking in with this fact is, does it feel safe right now? And really go at your own pace. The most important thing for us to relax and to open to this core circuitry is first we do need to feel safe. So let yourself, as you're going into the practice, keep checking in with your environment, keep checking in with your feet, keep checking in with the ground, keep checking in with the space above you, and trusting your system that you're going to go at the pace that actually your system feels safe to go. We don't want to push or force anything. We move through this wakeful presence that's this relaxed wakeful presence. So the sound we're going to bring in will begin to pattern interrupt any holding that is happening in the tissues through your belly and through your core. So just, again, play with it in your own way. The sound I'm going to bring into my belly, you'll hear me make this sound and you can just start to join me. And it's a little bit like the sound wah-wah. I'm going to go and it's a kind of a back of the throat, through the back of the throat down into my core. I'm going to bring my attention and my sound down into my belly. And then I'm going to invite that sound to start to vibrate up through this movement that we're exploring. Okay, so sounds something like this. And now the sound is an audible exhale. So I'm going to let my breath come in and fill and fill and fill any new spaces I just opened. And then I'm going to bring it in a few more times. So you can just watch me for a little bit, or you can also just join me when you feel ready. But just remembering, it's not about an external sound, it's about an internal vibration. And I'm creating space inside, internally, through the sound vibration. I'm bringing my awareness there, I'm bringing my touch there, I'm bringing my love, my warmth. And I'm enjoying the sensations of pleasure that are generating through this deep, intimate contact. And then I let my in-breath come and fill in any new spaces that I just opened with my awareness. And I fill it and fill it and fill it and reestablish myself in those new spaces. So we'll just go together for a little bit, just exploring in your own way. So go ahead and just let the sounds pause and just letting your attention sense just the natural flow of your breath. And if there's any little subtle movements of this primary respiration motion that are continuing for you, just very subtly continuing to breathe and just allowing whatever motions you sense are happening on their own, just being with that. Just letting yourself enjoy any new sensations of openness, spaciousness, pleasure, aliveness, warmth, light. And I invite you to just shift your system slightly and that you rest a hand on your belly. And then if you like, rest a hand on your heart as well. So we're just beginning to really allow this full connectivity between the heart and the belly. And just continuing to breathe and enjoy any new sense of really feeling yourself flowing between your hands. You sense of that core space opening on a sensation level, perhaps noticing the quality of your breath, fuller, deeper, wider. And just continuing to, as you exhale, emptying and letting your system pull in towards your core. And as you inhale, the sense of expanding, of opening, of filling, generously letting yourself receive from the biofield, from above, from below, from all around you. And as you exhale, the sense of offering your breath, your presence, your essence to life. And as you breathe in, feeling this openness, this sort of innocence to open to receive life, to receive this larger field of intelligence, this natural birthright, to let it in, to let it nourish you. And as you exhale, feeling this symbiotic exchange, offering your essence, your love, your presence. And the art of this practice, where I want to take us now, hopefully of feeling a little more fluidity and flow of breath and sense of connection. See if you can just, as you exhale your next exhale, and as you come in and in and in, and you bow towards your heart, see if you can really sense this core space of aliveness. See if you can sense the movement of the heartbeat there underneath the symphony of the breath. Just pausing for a moment with this kind of inner listening, Feeling that pulsation of the blood, the heartbeat traveling from your core through your extremities. See if you can listen in and sense the presence that's alive and awake down in your navel center, connected to this flow of life force from your heart. See if you can sense the breath that's weaving these two centers together into one field of coherence, one field of listening. And just feeling the breath moving between your two hands. Feeling the heartbeat, the pulsation of aliveness woven through each breath. And from there, I invite you to let your senses begin to listen into the larger field around you. So just noticing what's arriving through your hearing right now. Without leaving your core, listening from in here, the sounds of your environment. You can let your eyes have a soft gaze, sort of a peripheral vision, just soft gaze, sensing into the sense of receptivity as your eyes are receiving impressions of light, shapes, without focusing hard on anything, just this kind of soft peripheral vision, soft listening in through your ears. Feeling your sits bones and your feet and the sense of alignment through your spine. The sensations of your hand and your heart and your belly. Soft gaze. And this kind of receptivity at the crown of your head, just noticing, again, this sensitive, open receptivity to this energy that's coming from above. Receiving that energy, melting, opening, softening to that energy, letting it just come in through your crown. And feeling it travel down your spine, all the way down through your sits bones, down your legs, down your feet. And then just breathing up the energy from below, letting it circulate through your core and exhaling out through your spine, through the crown of your head. So we'll just take a couple of breaths like that again, breathing in through your crown, letting that beautiful, nourishing energy travel all the way down your chest, your throat, your heart, your belly, your sits bones, down your legs, through your feet, and then breathing up through your feet, through your legs, genitals, belly, solar plexus, heart, throat, through your brain, out the crown of your head. Breathing in through your crown and letting that energy come down into your core, feeling the energy come from below, and just sensing a kind of co-mingling in your center. You can let your eyes soften again and just being with whatever sensations of aliveness, of warmth, of light, open, spaciousness. I experience it as a kind of inner nectar, the inner nectar of your own presence. And just go ahead and take your seat in that. See if you can relax your back body, your kidneys, your adrenals, your heart. You can even, if you like, bring your hands around to your back body if that feels good to you. Whatever you need right now, whatever you sense as you attune to the energy that you've opened to, and just sensing what you need to quite literally relax into taking your seat. Feeling your breath receive the weight of your presence as you sit down in there into that sweet spot, that most natural place of resting in your core, embodying as you. And just taking a deep breath, establishing the sensation of yourself in the seat of your core. So hopefully this is feeling really natural. This is the most natural place for our awareness to be seated, quite literally. Awareness is always seeking where to rest. And by design, our most natural seat of rest is right here, in the very core of our bodies, the tangible location of where we can experience our essence, our home, our place of belonging, and where we sense this sacred cross of our eternal nature, our sense of wholeness and completeness, and where we can also attune to the larger field of this temporal plane. So I invite you to just check in with that for a moment. Sense into this vertical place where you know your eternity. And from there, sense into this larger field, the biofield, Gaia, the play of your life, the relational field. And from this sweet spot, this core seat, notice how you can just relax into this kind of both and, having an address in both places, quite naturally. So from here, there's lots of ways we can play with this. We can bring in, if there's something you want guidance around in particular, if there was something you put on the altar in the beginning of the call that you'd like to bring back in to be bathed in this space. I'm going to bring us back here fairly soon, but just see if while we're here, tune in and see if there's anything right now that would like some attention. Anything in your prayer, in your life that you're meeting right now that you would like to be bathed in this core space. You can ask a specific question, or you can just invite anything that's in your field to just be nourished by this space. Or you can also just let yourself receive the nourishment. So as you rest in your core space and however you're practicing, just notice that from here, your awareness, while you're seated deeply in the very core of your body, just notice how your awareness is aware of so much more. The surroundings of your environment, the infinite space around you, just noticing how your awareness is aware that you exist beyond the skin of your form. And I invite you, as we start to come back from our exploration, to just continue to rest inside while also feeling this sense of expansion of this greater field of awareness. And that part of taking your seat is not just being located inside your body, but by virtue of being located deep inside the core of your body, you also are claiming this larger field of awareness. And when we orient in that way, we can tap into an interesting facility of being grounded in this deeper sense of where our eternal and our finite nature meet. And I find this to be a really essential aspect of navigating these days. So we can fully take in the world and fully take in our personal lives and all that we're meeting in this preciousness that requires our attention and our depth and our integrity, while also being established in this current of our eternal nature that has kind of more of a neutrality to it. It has more of a nature of rest because it's infinite. It knows that it's deathless. It knows that everything that's occurring in this temporal plane that comes and goes, it knows there's something deeper to rest in. So we get to be in this both and space. So very gently, I invite you to see what it's like to practice as we come back to gently opening the eyes and letting in the screen world, letting in your environment, letting in the fact that we'll be wrapping up the call and you'll be orienting to where the rest of your day will take you. So before we wrap up the call, anything that anyone would like to share or any questions, anything you would like me to address, I'm going to open up the chat box here and you're welcome to type anything in there and I will do the best that I can to address it. Last week I tried to open up an opportunity for people to speak, and it got a little messy with the panelists and the way Zoom works, and so I'm not going to do that today. But please go ahead and write something in the chat box if you have anything you'd like to share or ask or presence at all before we complete the call. And if you'd rather not do that in this format, you're welcome to reach out to me personally. Send me an email. If there's something you'd like to privately open up around anything I shared today, I'm very available for that. And I'm also offering so somebody's saying, I seem to have a defensive system that keeps me from this nourishment, lots of tension into gut area. So yes, this is very common. And so part of why I put a lot of emphasis on opening the gut brain is because in our culture, especially in Western culture, it is the most deficient in the sense of where we've grown our attention. And so what I want to say to you is it takes some time to cultivate awareness again down in the belly brain and for this part of you to feel safe. And what I shared today, this little bit of practice with the sound and with the contact, if that was new to you, I can pretty much guarantee you if you spend some time every day bringing in this practice, it would start to shift. It would start to open up. The defense system would start to loosen, and you really can reestablish new flows of connection so that nourishment is more accessible to you. And sometimes what happens is along the way, we get to meet what's been held and bound in time in those tissues. So sometimes we have emotions, memories, traumas, experiences that we've held that we need to feel. It's sort of like they get frozen in the tissues. And that's what we experience as a defense system. And so we need to thaw what's frozen through the warmth of our love. So one of the keys there is that you really bring warmth. When I'm home, I have a biomat, and that really helps too. Literally being on a biomat, if you know what that is, it has infrared heat. So that's another thing you can explore, is quite literally bringing warmth to your body. Warmth, it translates to our bodies as love. So a lot of it has to do with this shifting the climate. If we're in any way trying to fix ourselves or change ourselves or get rid of things, our system experiences that as a kind of violence. It doesn't feel that as love. It feels that as violence. And so the defense system will plug in even deeper. So it's very important that you establish your intention as a part of it, and that as you're practicing, you stay really gentle. Don't push, right? And if you, in particular, the person who's asking this question, if you want to work with this more privately, where I could really attune to you and see what's going on, we can do that. Somebody else is saying this breathing exercise was wonderful. Yeah, if you do yoga, you can bring this into your yoga. Sometimes I like to do this practice. What I started to show you all today is the beginning of what I call my core attunement practice, which is the core of my core embodiment practices. And it's a practice where we first open the belly and the root and establish our ground with Gaia. And then we bring the energy into the heart. There's sounds we work with for the heart. And then we open the head center. There's sounds we work with for the head center. And after a while, the whole system reestablishes this flow through space that I was referring to. And it's a wonderful thing to do before yoga or after yoga, or any time that you feel you've lost contact with your interior referencing system, and you don't know where your true seed is, and you feel dissociative and split off and spaced out and anxious and all of that business. It's a wonderful way to reclaim that sense of integrity and reestablish that quality of being in the slipstream. So if any of you are interested in diving deeper with me on this, I do offer a 2-month course, an 8-week class that's a foundational course on this core embodiment journey that's all about how to thrive in these times that we're living in, and not just be in our survival circuitry based in fear and based in our history and based in our culture, but how to really thrive based in our birthright native circuitry, our divine design, that's really more of our native intelligence, and how to establish that and stabilize that in a way that it's your go-to rather than the survival system go-to. So if you're interested in that, please reach out to me. I'm doing discovery sessions right now with people, alignment sessions, however you want to talk about it, where we can explore in a more one-on-one personal way what you're meeting in your life right now, and if a container like that would be useful, good timing for you. And I welcome any other feedback. Again, if you want to reach out to me privately. Thank you so much for being with me today and being on this little journey. I hope it was useful, and I send you my blessings to all that you are meeting in your own precious lives. So bless you all. Take really good care. God bless. Much love. Be well.